Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Popcorn Cinema. My name is Noah. I'm your host through this ocean of fantastic movies and whatever, and today I've got a pretty fun one to talk about. But before we do, I'd just like to take this moment to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe as it helps the channel greatly, and also go ahead and follow my social medias for behind the scenes and other updates on what I'm doing. I'll put those in the bio, and thank you very much. So that's enough of that. Let's get into the movie. So I went into this movie excited. I thought it was gonna be a really good movie, and boy was I wrong, because it wasn't a great movie. It was a fantastic movie, and I was blown away by Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. He's so good at producing emotion from his face. I really believed in it, really pushed the story forward. And they did a really good thing. It was very suspenseful because you never get to see what happens. It's all just from his character's perspective. So let's go ahead and talk about the plot of the movie, The Guilty. The Guilty follows an LAPD police officer who was demoted to desk duty, i.e. being a 911 operator, for reasons that are not explained until the end of the movie. The police officer's name is Joe Baylor. He is our main character. Now, basically the movie starts out with just him taking calls. It's shown very quickly that he definitely has anger issues, just by the way he carries himself, by the way he talks to his superior officers. It's very clear. So I was thinking that's why he got demoted, but it turns out being something honestly, that's the one thing I had about the movie, actually. I thought the reason he got demoted was very on the nose, just because of how this country's been going, but yeah. But I don't think the original incarnation of this movie is actually American. I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but yeah. So other than that, Joe Baylor is just going through his day, taking calls, clearly has anger issues, and then eventually he gets a call from a strange woman named Emily. And at first, Joe's gonna hang up on Emily because he thinks this is just some weird kind of prank call, but right before he does, he makes the connection that this is a hostage situation and she's talking in code, so her kidnapper doesn't really figure out what she's doing. The fact that she was being kidnapped but was allowed to use the phone was already a red flag for me. Again, this will be solved at the end of the movie, and I will explain it at the end of the video. But if you haven't seen the movie, it would be weird. It was weird for me my first watch through, because I was like, well, if she's being kidnapped, why would you want her on the phone? It seems like, I mean, they're getting their real-time location. They just don't have a car model, and they don't have a license plate, so that makes them kind of hard to track. But other than that, they know where they're going the whole time. So after some very coded conversation, Joe Baylor figures out that Emily has been kidnapped / abducted by her husband. And he also finds out that they are in a white van, very unique, and he also gets their license plate number, so that's great. This information doesn't actually help them at all for some reason, because they never are actually able to catch him based on their license plate or the car type. Joe puts out a report, and some officers do head over to pick up a white van, but it turns out the white van didn't have Emily in it. It was just a random white van. Also, during this time, there's a bunch of forest fires because it's Los Angeles, so it's making the visibility reduced. So the police officers even say, I don't even know if it was a white van, it might have been a gray van. The visibility is awful here. So that also is a factor in this. If you hear weird sounds, that's my cat, Avid Media Composer. She likes to be stupid. Anyway, through a lot more conversations with other police departments and other jurisdictions, they find things kind of get bad. She keeps getting kidnapped. Eventually, Joe goes ahead and uses his personal phone to call the husband, and we find out some information at that point. We find out that the husband's name is, did I already forget? Jesus. Henry, that's his name. We find out that his name is Henry, and yeah, that's about it. We kind of just find out that his name's Henry. He says that he has to do this, and it's played off like Henry's crazy. And I mean, it sounds like he's crazy, but also when I was listening to Joe's conversation with Henry, he didn't take me as crazy, psychotic. We also find out earlier that they have 2 kids at home, and later it's revealed that one of them was killed. And they think that it was Henry who killed them. And again, like I was saying, Henry doesn't seem like a killer. Nothing's really adding up for me, but it is very intense because I do have to remind you guys, we don't get to see any of this. We just get to hear their voices. And there's 2 clips we get to see that aren't in the police precinct. And that does add not just a lot of drama, but a lot of tension. So after a lot of trial and tribulations, Joe kind of just loses it. He sends his friend Rick over to the husband's house without a warrant, and he kicks in the door, as he's very adamant about him doing. And what he finds is letters and stuff that are leading to like a mental institution, and then all the pieces kind of come together. Because Joe calls Emily back a little bit before Rick calls him about the health stuff, and Emily was like, Oliver is all better now. Oliver is the baby who was killed. And she's like, Oliver is all better now. And Joe's like, what do you mean? He's like, he's better. He was complaining about snakes and I just cut them out and he's better now. He's not crying anymore. i.e. he's dead. That's why he's not crying anymore. So at this point, Joe's in a bad situation because he's kind of been helping the wrong person. The real kicker is just before this, he told Emily to pull the emergency handbrake, not the emergency handbrake, but just the regular handbrake on the van they were in because I guess she was in the front because, you know, she wasn't actually being kidnapped. She was just being taken to get help. So Joe tells her to pull the brake because Henry doesn't have his seatbelt on. So she pulls the brake and somehow Henry doesn't go flying out the window, but he does lock her in the back of the truck. While she's in the back of the truck, she calls Joe. Joe tells her, Joe is hyping her up to just hit Henry over the head with this brick she finds in the truck. And Joe keeps saying he deserves it, he deserves it, you can do this, so she does. And that brings us up to where we are. It's shortly after this where Joe actually figures out that Emily is the one who is the culprit here and Henry is completely innocent. I mean, he had gone to jail a few times, but he was trying to help his family. And that's kind of why Joe's kind of going crazy here. He's like, all of this drama, all this injury, all this pain, all this suffering, all this death is kind of on his hands now, and he just wants to put a stop to it. It's not really revealed why he cares so much about this particular case, but everything comes to a head when Emily calls Joe, and Emily's on the top of the freeway about to kill herself. And Joe is just really trying to convince her not to, and what he ends up saying is that he shot a kid, a 19-year-old male, and he admits it was for no reason. He was just angry. He wanted to punish the kid because the kid hurt someone. And he and his buddy Rick, who's the person he sent in to kick in Henry's door, had a plan. They were gonna lie so he didn't go to jail, but he ends up telling Emily this, and apparently that backs her down enough because the police officers get her and she's completely fine in the end. And the end of the movie is it's Joe telling Rick to forget about their plans to tell the truth in court, and he just wants to take responsibility for his actions, which is a pretty brave thing to do. So this experience kind of made him come full circle. That was kind of a crash course through the plot. It's kind of hard to talk about the plot because, you know, it was pretty much all just on the phone, so it was kind of hard to give specific details because we didn't really get details. But to sum it up even more simply than that, a police officer demoted to desk duty is forced to be on desk duty, and he gets a call from someone who's kidnapped. It turns out the person who's being kidnapped isn't being kidnapped, she's being taken to a mental institution, but Joe helps the person who's getting kidnapped into escaping the kidnapper or the driver of the mental institution, and then she wants to kill herself. And yeah, that's the plot. In the absolute end though, Joe does get some happy news because the baby who they thought was killed actually wasn't killed. They were taken to the ICU, and I expect they were gonna make a full recovery. I don't know, it wasn't really explicitly stated, but that seems like that's going to be what happened. So, you know, he can rest easy knowing that this family wasn't destroyed. Henry even said that Emily wasn't always like this. He just couldn't afford the medication anymore, and that's why she kind of went back to being crazy. So it's just unfortunate because they're a low income family and there's really nothing they could do about it. So it's just, none of them were really bad guys. It was a case of misfortune, really. But yeah, in terms of performances, Jake Gyllenhaal, fantastic. I didn't even know he had so much range. Like the first thing and the only thing, at least that I know I've seen him in was Spider-Man Far From Home, and I thought he was great as Mysterio. Mysterio is actually one of my favorite MCU villains, and I just thought he did a fantastic job in that role. But this role is so different, in my opinion at least. And I think he did such a great job. He's the true definition of an actor, being able to be completely different people when the job calls for it. So absolutely fantastic job there. And I thought everybody else who was a voice actor did a really good job. They really conveyed their feelings, and I think it's hard to make a movie that's almost like a podcast or an audiobook. You don't really get to see what's happening. All you get is the tone of their voices, how fast they're talking, their breathing, and it's really hard to do that and capture it through one person's perspective when you can't see it, and they all did a fantastic job. This movie is like a 10 out of 10 for me. I heavily recommend, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, or not, because I just spoiled it for you. But you can watch movies if they're spoiled, unless it's like a whodunit, then I guess you can't watch it. Rip Knives Out, I wanted to see it, but I got it spoiled. But yeah, that's all I got. It's kind of difficult to review a movie like this, because usually I talk about like the cinematography, the colors, the costumes, the set, how well they did, but it was all in one spot. Like, I guess I could say the glass looked cool and the computer monitors look good. The police officer polo shirts look good. Like, there wasn't really much else to say. All I could really talk about was the voice acting and the plot. And the plot was fantastic and the voice acting was fantastic. So it's pretty clear and cut review. Not much to say there, but yeah, fantastic movie. Watch it. You won't regret it. And if you have seen it, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys. Thank you guys for watching to the end. If you made it to the end, you deserve a gold star, or if you made it to the end, comment that you made it to the end and I'll heart your comment. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe, as it supports this channel greatly. Don't forget to follow my social medias, which I will put in the description, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.